So in this video, I'm going to show you how to cut your material out by hand for your first lab in the Prepreg course. You should be cutting this out with an automated cutter, but if you don't have one of those, you can use the templates and cut this out. But you still need to be familiar with how to cut Prepreg out by hand and get the orientation correctly. You should already know how to cut the orientation correctly in your previous courses, but we are working with a different material. We're working with Prepreg. It's actually a little bit easier to understand because we're using a unidirectional Prepreg that only runs in one direction. So you can kind of see the fibers are all running in this direction. So that's the 0 degree direction. This is how it comes off of the roll. And you can actually split them apart and see that there's only one fiber running. I mean, there's only one direction the fiber's running in, just like that, so you can pull them apart. If this wasn't expired, it probably wouldn't come apart as easy, but the fibers are only running this direction. So in order to cut these out for this first part, we're going to lay our material down in this direction. So that will be our 0. So we'll cut the 0 out first. You put your template down, try not to waste any material, and notice I am wearing gloves. Make sure you have your gloves on, your safety glasses at all times. But with this stuff, it does have a epoxy in the material, and there's a curing agent in there that can cause contact dermatitis really bad. You may not think so, but because it's not liquidy, but material is in there and it is not cured, and it will mess your skin up. So make sure you wear your gloves at all times handling Prepreg. So I'll put the template on there in the 0 direction. Fibers are running that way. There's no need to mark your material. You can if you want to, but you really don't have to. You just take and get a good sharp razor knife. You need to be wearing a cutting glove on this hand. Grab one of those right quick. I forgot about it, but always make sure that you're wearing a cut-resistant glove on the opposite hand you're cutting with. And I would suggest using a razor knife. These blades are easy to change out. They're really cheap. They can get gummed up with the resin from the Prepreg, so you can change them out really easily. If you're using scissors, it's going to be hard to cut through here. The scissors are going to clog up on you too, and you'll constantly have to clean them. So I suggest using a razor knife. So I'll start over here, and all you have to do is use the template, and so you'll just run your knife alongside of it. Just like that. Come over here, cut that, and then right over there. And if we're cutting in the middle, you cut that size, but we're staying on the edge. And that's it. Now you have your material. This is the 0 running in that direction. This is the first one it calls for. So cut it, put it off to the side, and then you just, like you would with the woven dry fabrics, you just take your template, turn it that way, place it on there. 0s and the fabric are still running in that direction, so we're gonna be cutting that way, and when we turn it, it'll be 90 degrees. So same, just cut it that. There. After you remove it, when you go to lay it down, you got your 0s, and now you can see the 90s running in that direction. So when you put it on top of it, you'll have the 90. And then in order to get the 45s, you will need to use the triangle, because you want this stuff perfect. You do not want to be at anything other than 45 degrees. So you can put that template down on the material, and use your other template. I gotta go up a little bit because we don't have as wide a material. But I've got the bottom of the triangle running alongside the fibers in the 0 degree direction. Just a little bit. Because even off a little bit can really mess with the strength of the part. Just like that. Get that in place. And so the fibers and the fabric are running that way. So if you look at it, they'll be running that way when we cut it out. You can try to guess what orientation that's going to be, but I'll show you once it's cut out. This stuff gets really sticky when it warms up. Go ahead, cut it. When you pull it out, you turn it to lay it down, you can see that you've got negative 45s. So pay attention to that. Be conscious of what orientation the fiber's running in. And it's good to be able to pick the material up and look at it and see what orientation the fibers are running in, even after somebody else has cut it out. It's good to be able to look at that. Now you can run into a problem with this unidirectional prepreg. A lot of times you'll see that you can see the fibers running in a negative 45, but when you flip it over to place it down on your mold, the fibers change, and so they're running in that orientation. So you've got to be mindful of that, and it's very easy to get confused on that. I'm gonna pull this backing film off real quick to show a little bit easier. So if you look, you can see the fibers are running in that direction. When we flip it over, all of a sudden, they're running a positive 45. So it's easy to get it reversed. Sometimes you'll have prepreg with paper backing on one side and plastic on the other, and it's easier to deal with because you can take one or the other off, put down on your mold. But always be mindful of what direction your fibers are running in. And so if you got to flip it over, make sure that you're putting the right material down that your lab calls for, your work instructions, because it's easy to reverse these. And since the fibers are running only in one direction, you can warp the part very easily because there's no other fibers running against it. And so if you get one of these layers off, you've ruined the whole part. If you've got a part with 30 or 40 layers in it and you spend all day laying it up, you get one of these backwards, you're going to scrap the part. So it's really important to make sure you get your orientation correctly. And make sure that your material doesn't split apart like that either. So be very careful with it. Usually if you're not using expired material, it shouldn't separate as easy. So that's how you cut this material out.